Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 6 of Tirreno Adriatico, a massive stage 212 kilometers long. And at the tail end of today's stage, they have to climb not once but twice the climb of Monte Carpegna, 6 kilometers long, just under 10%. This is a massively steep 6-kilometer climb here, and they have a lot of climbing just to get up to the start of this climb. So this is definitely the queen stage. To top it off, if the 15% ramps on this final climb aren't difficult enough for you fans sitting at home, the descent is crazy dangerous. This is a twisty descent, and what makes it really dangerous is all of the turns come really close together. As a bike racer myself, I can tell you firsthand that when you come out of a right or left hairpin turn, what really throws us off is when you come out and then immediately have to go the other direction. And this descent has all of that in store for the GC favorites that'll make it over the climb and have to battle out on the descent. Now, when the racing starts, there's a group of 9 up the road. This is a fantastic group up there because we see 2 quick-step riders, Julian Alaphilippe and Mikel Honore, along with Alex Aramburu from Movistar, who's 26th on the general classification, just 2.5 minutes down on the GC leader, Pogacar. Now, this is a great move here because with those 9 guys and with Alex Aramburu having a teammate with him, with Louis Moss up there, you know the quick-step riders are going to want to drive this break for sure for Remco Evenepoel to sit on back there on Pogacar. And you know Movistar have a chance at actually taking the race lead and possibly winning Tirreno Adriatico with this group of 9 up front if they were given any chance at winning today's stage. But they're not given any chance. Even with Quinn Simmons, the American Trek Segafredo rider up there, who's certainly motivated to have this break go up the road and gain maximum points for his KOM jersey, even with 5 guys that focused, that motivated. And let me tell you, the other 4, they're motivated to have this break go too, because Benoit Cosnefroy from AG2R would love a stage win. Mark Haller from Bora Hansgrohe, they haven't done anything here, so they would love a stage win. Davide Baez from Iolo Cometa, we know he would absolutely love for a small team like his to be able to win a stage here at Tirreno Adriatico. So they're all rotating through. Alexander Konichev from Bike Exchange, he's rotating through, and he's a big guy. Every time we see this group of 9, I see all of them rotating through nicely, and especially Honore from Quickstep. He's putting in big pulls back there to try to get Julian Alaphilippe to the tail end of this race so he can put his climbing legs and his form into work and start trying to win today's stage and put some pressure back there on UAE Team Emirates, who's chasing in the back. Now, yesterday's stage, when it started, I pointed out that it was fabulous tactics from all the team. UAE Team Emirates were fantastic yesterday, and they had no help from Jumbo-Visma. Now, I don't know what happened between yesterday's stage and this morning's stage. I'm going to take an educated guess. I'm pretty certain Jumbo-Visma's director fell out of bed last night and hit his head on the nightstand because it's the only thing that makes any sense. Jumbo-Visma's pulling full gas back there with UAE Team Emirates. And on top of that, there had to be 2 big knocks last night because Bahrain Victorious, they're pulling on the front too. So their director absolutely had to have fallen out of bed and hit his head. When you look at this group of 9 up there, folks, when you see that Alex Aramburu is only 2.5 minutes back on the general classification, it's a 212-kilometer stage. UAE Team Emirates, who had to work incredibly hard throughout yesterday's stage 5 race, now could be on the front throughout this whole race. Instead, they got help. They got help from 2 teams back there. Bahrain Victorious, what are you doing? Jumbo-Visma, why do I even need to ask this question? But what are you guys doing? So with 3 teams pulling, you know the group of 9's not going to make it to the finish. There's no way. With a 5.5 minute gap, that's just falling all the way down to 2 minutes when we start getting on to near the circuit of this stage. There's no chance that group of 9 is even putting any pressure on the heels of Tadej Pogacar here at UAE Team Emirates, when it could have been a spectacular show for us fans sitting on the couch. We could have seen the whole UAE team on the front and just blowing up everywhere, and Tadej Pogacar left isolated throughout the final 40 or 30 kilometers of this stage. Instead, UAE Team Emirates, brilliant again. Not only did they race it the same way today, they ran their three slower guys up there, the three big guys, Max Ricchese, they ran Pascal Ackermann, and of course, Mikkel Berg. They ran those three guys because they can't climb, right? Well, on top of that, they switched the chemistry today. If you see, it's Davide Formulo that starts climbing on the front. He wasn't so solid in yesterday's stage 5, and the director is smart enough to change it. So instead of Rafael Majka working first, they put Davide Formulo on the front with about 45 kilometers to go. As the climb starts going up, he'll get on the front, and that's when we start seeing the group reduce. Now, up front in the breakaway of 9, with that same distance, just under 45 kilometers to go as they start climbing, it's Julian Alaphilippe now who starts putting a little pressure on the pedals, because Mikel Honoré is coming off with Alexander Koniesev and Davide Baez. Mark Holler from Bora Hansgrohe is the next rider to come off. That's 4 gone out of 9. They'll start and cross the finish line of today's stage with only 5 riders up front instead of that 9. As the real climb today starts, Monte Carpegna. Now, when that climb starts, Benoit Cosnefroy is the first casualty. He comes off quickly, and he's going to have some company because Moss is going to drop off shortly after him. Now we'll see a little bit of communication here from Quinn Simmons. Quinn Simmons, 20 years of age, the Trek Segafredo American rider. He's a little bit cocky. He's giving some lip back there to Julian Alaphilippe. We'll see Julian Alaphilippe give a little look over the right side of his shoulder and look at the young American. I already know what those two are thinking and saying to each other. Alaphilippe wants to put the hurt on Quinn Simmons, but he doesn't have the legs, because Quinn Simmons is going to add another acceleration in there, and then we're going to see the 2-time road world champion Julian Alaphilippe coming out the back. It's Quinn Simmons and the Movistar rider Alex Aramburu that are going up the road on today's stage, with all of the other breakaway companions all dropped. Trek Segafredo rider Quinn Simmons, he's not done yet. He's going to put in one more acceleration before the KOM. That's going to drop Alex Aramburu, and Quinn Simmons is going to lock up the KOM jersey here at Tirreno, Adriatico. He'll go over the top solo. Now behind, let's get back to the players in the GC, because the action's getting pretty thick back there. It's Rafael Majka who's doing a spectacular domestique job for Pogacar. He's setting a blistering pace on the front, and we see Remco Evenepoel coming out the back. He has a little bit of help later on, because Julian Alaphilippe, who got dropped out of the break, will come back there and start helping out Remco Evenepoel, but it's not going to be his day. The Belgian rider is going to suffer throughout today's stage, and he will not see the front group again. Now, as they go over the KOM, it's the Bahrain victorious riders on the front. It's about a group of 21 going over this climb, with a little bit of split to the top 10. And Richie Porte has made the split. I'm sitting on the couch. You guys have heard me talk about Richie Porte's descending skills. I'm just waiting to see it. So as the descent starts, instead of Richie Porte having problems, it's Bahrain victorious that's flying off the road. They will save it. They'll get back on, and then the speed picks up to maximum on this descent. Again, this descent's crazy. There's no place that's safe on this descent. It's so narrow that you can't just hit the apex on these turns, because it's dirty on the inside, it's rough on the outside before you started the turns. The riders are left basically riding straight down the center, and then that's not safe because that's where all the gravel is, so you gotta pick a left side or right side. It's rutted, it's nasty, it's a terrible descent. Up front, Quinn Simmons, who's solo now, he's driving down the descent. The group of favorites back there with the GC guys have caught all the breakaway companions, but now they're blowing up all over, and we see the first big casualty on GC. It's Richie Porte. He can't close the gap, and it's opened up big time to the group in front. Up front, it's Pale Bilbao that'll throw in the first attack as the descent is starting to come to a close. The Bahrain victorious flies off. They catch Quinn Simmons. Then Pale Bilbao does his attack. When he gets that gap, this is the next big knucklehead move on today's race. Quinn Simmons, what were you thinking? Trek Segafredo, what were you allowing Quinn Simmons to do? And Ciccone, why didn't you tell your teammate to get off the front? It's a group of 7 or 8 of the GC favorites up there. Richie Porte's chasing, so when I'm watching Quinn Simmons pulling on the front like crazy, trying to pull Bilbao back, the Bahrain victorious rider, I'm thinking, okay, maybe Ciccone, maybe he's just thinking, I can move up to top 5 here in the GC because Richie Porte and a few of the others have fallen off. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, makes a little bit of sense. You can move in the top 5. You're not going to beat Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard. You're not going to beat those 2 legends, Ciccone. So maybe it makes a little sense. And then what happens? The group gets bigger with Richie Porte and a bunch of other riders coming on. And Quinn Simmons is still pulling on the front. Quinn, what are you doing, man? This makes no sense. How do I know it makes no sense? Because Tadej Pogacar is getting a free ride. Guys, we're getting robbed. When you're sitting on the couch right now and you watch Bilbao, Bahrain victorious go up the front, this is what we wanted. This was going to be the excitement. All of a sudden, Tadej Pogacar is isolated and he's going to have to get on the front. Maybe, just maybe it won't happen, but just maybe his legs will get a little bit tired before the climb starts for the last time up the Monte Carpegna back there. But instead, Quinn Simmons is pulling like a madman on the front with 2-time legend Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard sitting on his wheel, getting a free ride. Great job, Quinn Simmons, pulling all of the favorites in today's race all the way to the last time up the climb. Now, when he finally pulls off, we passed the finish line there with one more lap to do, and it's Soler who got back on there with Richie Porte. Soler hops to the front, and now he's going to do some super domestique work for Tadej Pogacar as he starts setting a blistering pace. First guy to put in the next big attack is going to be Mikel Landa. He's going to do an exceptional job. He's going to accelerate on the pedals. It's Pogacar, it's Enric Mas, it's Jonas Vingegaard. Those 4 riders got a gap, and there's not much else back there because there's a big gap happening with Mikel Landa's acceleration. Then we see the next big acceleration, Tadej Pogacar, with about 5 kilometers still left to go in this climb. He throws in a massive acceleration, gets a gap immediately on all the GC favorites back there. There's nothing they can do. And to top it off, Jonas Vingegaard rides up to the side of Mikel Landa, and he starts arguing with him. The announcers got their take on it. My take is certainly that he is upset that Mikel Landa was on the front pulling for about a kilometer up there, pulling Tadej Pogacar away. But Jonas Vingegaard, what do you have to argue with? Your whole Jumbo-Visma squad pulled for 150 kilometers with Tadej Pogacar's team. What do you got to argue with? At least Mikel Landa knows he can get a top 3 on today's stage if he can split this group, even though it's the legendary Tadej Pogacar sitting on. Now, with Tadej Pogacar's acceleration, I told you he's already shot out of a cannon back there. He's got immediate gap, 15 seconds. It grows to 30 seconds, 45 seconds. When he hits the summit, he's got about a minute lead on all the GC favorites back there. Richie Porte, to my disbelief, he has done a fantastic job. He fought all the way down the descent after he got gapped, got back onto the group of favorites, got gapped with Mikel Landa's move. Now with Jonas Vingegaard arguing and the pace slowing down there because Bahrain victorious Landa and Jonas Vingegaard going at it for way too long of a time allows Richie Porte to come back up to that group of 3 with Enric Mas. Over the summit, Tadej Pogacar with a minute lead. It's clear to us sitting on the couch that he's got this Tirreno Adriatico wrapped up, but he has to keep the bike up on 2 wheels. Remember, this is a crazy descent, and it doesn't take but 2 or 3 corners later before Tadej Pogacar is almost off the road. He saves it, as he always seems to be able to do, and he's back on the pedals and driving hard through the next corners. It didn't even slow him down or cause a hesitation. This kid is marvelous downhill, he is marvelous uphill, and he sprints with just about the best in the European peloton, so he can do it all. Now behind the 4 GC favorites, hoping to try to get back up to Tadej Pogacar, but with almost no chance unless there's an accident up front. The 4 going over the summit, it's Jonas Vingegaard, Richie Porte, Enric Mas, and Landa that come flying into the left turn. Mas crashes hard on the ground. Landa does a spectacular job to avoid Mas's crash and gets back up to Jonas Vingegaard and Richie Porte quickly. Now further down the road, Richie Porte almost goes down himself, foot clicked out of the pedals, comes to a slow. Now it's Landa and Jonas Vingegaard going up the road and pushing hard. At this point in time, you know Richie Porte has had a hard stage 6 here. He had to chase all the way down the descent, just latching on at the start of this final climb, got popped with the Landa group, then got popped again later near the summit. Somehow found the legs to get back on, but now he's chasing the whole descent again. You talk about marginal gains here with Ineos. This is not marginal gains. Richie Porte at some point in time is going to have to work hard on his descending skills, but I don't think it's going to happen because at his age, he's about ready to retire. So he's fighting back there big time because he's trying to get a podium spot here at Tirreno Adriatico as the two riders in front of him, Mikel Landa and Jonas Vingegaard, are going pull for pull, going hard as they can to gain maximum time on Richie Porte back there. This will move Mikel Landa, Bahrain victorious, up onto a podium if they can get 30 plus seconds on Richie Porte. Tadej Pogacar, we know he has this Tirreno Adriatico wrapped up by the bottom of this descent, and he is flying on the pedal looking spectacular. He'll come through with a stage 6 big victory to wrap up this year's Tirreno Adriatico if he can keep himself safe on tomorrow's last stage here. Behind the two riders, it's Mikel Landa pulling on the front. Jonas Vingegaard wants maximum bonus time on today's stage, and so he'll make Landa pull all the way to about 150 meters to go and then take off with a little look over his shoulder. He'll take second on today's stage. Mikel Landa will come through third. Richie Porte will come through fourth, and he'll lose a shot at a podium here on today's stage and most likely the general classification. One little shout out to our Ensman, the DSM rider. He still stayed in the top 10. Young kid, 22 years of age. This is his biggest result, so I want to highlight it here at Tirreno Adriatico on the butterfly effect, because for a young kid, when I looked at his resume, he had nothing on there. He's still in the top 10. He's still riding solid, and a top 10 result here at Tirreno Adriatico is a fantastic ride when it's your first big result in Europe. Congratulations, our Ensman. Now, everyone else back there, when I'm talking Bahrain victorious and Jumbo-Visma, you guys cost us a spectacular stage. All of us sitting on the couch, UAE Team Emirates were in so much trouble on today's stage with Alex Aaron Burrow only at 2.5 minutes down on general classification. You wrecked what could have been a fabulous showdown and a 100% isolated Tadej Pogacar. The commentators, I'm blaming you guys too. If you guys do not bring it up to us fans sitting at home, if you do not make it known on how to race properly, instead every time I'm listening to the commentators, they're talking about 3 teams chasing there and about how the break has no chance to get away, instead of saying why are these 2 teams chasing with Tadej Pogacar, 2-time Tour de France champion. This kid has won everything. Out of the last 7 World Tour stage races, Tadej Pogacar has won 6, is what the announcers have said on TV. Now, the only one he missed was the Basque Country, and he was trying to help Brandon McNulty win that last year. They lost it to Primoz Roglic. Other than that, Tadej Pogacar has been spectacular. So, commentators, why do I see it and you guys don't see it? You guys are the professionals. Directors, why do I see it and you guys don't see it? You are paid to do this. You cannot pull Tadej Pogacar along at any point in time during the race unless it's going to be a field sprint. If it's going to be a field sprint, put your team on the front. If not, make UAE Team Emirates do everything. For the love of the cycling gods out there and all us fans sitting on the couch, we don't want to see the kid win everything. Make him do some work. Let UAE Team Emirates do from kilometer 0 all the way to the finish. And let's make this racing. Let's bring it even more exciting, because us fans sitting on the couch, can you imagine what it would be like? How exciting today's stage would have been, because his whole team blew up with no help back there. And Alex Aaron Burrow from Movistar had a shot at actually taking the general classification lead on today's stage. Instead, a bunch of knuckleheads back there blew it for us. It was still a fantastic day of racing amongst the favorites, but it could have been even better. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.